Hello and welcome to the first Wisden Cricket Daily podcast on the second India-England test at Vizag. A come down from the highs of Hyderabad, but an intriguing first day's play nevertheless. India finished 336 for 6, which I don't think England will mind that much about. I'm Rana, and with me today is Phil Walker. A quick rundown of what happened today. India won a crucial toss and chose to bat first, with the commentary team all bigging up just how flat the wicket looked before play. Those observations were proved to be correct. It was very flat. Jimmy Anderson, back in the side, was right on the money with the new ball, drawing several false shots without finding that initial breakthrough. The English spinners bowled with decent control early doors on a pitch offering minimum assistance. Shoaib Bashir on debut made the first breakthrough, claiming the wicket of Rohit Sharma for 14, caught a leg slip by Ollie Pope for his first test wicket and just his 11th in his first-class career. Shubman Gill started fluently alongside Jaiswal, who passed 50 in good time, and they threatened to take the game away from England a little bit, but Anderson struck shortly before lunch, inducing a feather from Gill after a smart bit of captaincy from Stokes. But after lunch, it was all about Jaiswal, manipulating the field with his nimble footwork. He was the only India batter to really apply serious pressure on the England attack. He reached his second test match ton and his first on home soil and really made it count. Hartley got Iyer thanks to an outstanding catch from Ben Foakes, and Rana Ahmed got the debutant Rajat Patidar with one that spat off the pitch. Bashir and Rohan then struck late in the day, soft dismissals in truth, to leave India 336 for 6 at the close. Phil, what's your sense of how this match is poised? Because on a flat wicket, 6 of the 7 Indian batters didn't get to 40, but the one that did got 179 not out.
Well, we can come to the so-called state of the game in a minute, but you've got to start with Jaiswal. Firstly, it's not done yet, so we don't know how far he's going to go yet. Another session, and he's looking at 250. He's played, 6 test matches, I think?
I think this is his 6th.
This is his 6th. He made 2 170s already. I think 7 of his 11 first-class hundreds are 150 plus. So he could go big tomorrow morning. He's had whispers of support throughout the day, but as one comes and then falls, and then another gets themselves in and then falls away again, the scale of the Jaiswal innings just grows epic with every underachieving partner up the other end. And while, of course, nobody wants to see their partner go, in his quieter moments, he might look at that scorecard and it gets all the more sexy for the player himself when you just see 20s, 30s, 35s. No one's got to 40. And he's sitting up the top, having faced the first ball of the day, and he's 179
not out.
179 not out.
I mean,
it was beautiful.
He's only just turned 22. Can you remember many batters this young stamping their authority on a serious, successful team like this? You know, Pant comes to mind, but not many others. Kohli, for instance, was 23 when he scored his first 100. Jaiswal's turned 22 this month.
Yeah, he looks like a complete and natural player. He plays all around the wicket, plays the quicks well, plays spin effortlessly. He has a lovely combination of sort of staccato touch in that he can drill it, punch it, standing tall through the offside, and then when he allows himself, the wrists will break on the shot as well. And there's a lovely kind of combination of sort of compactness in a sort of conventional left-handed opener's way, and then there's a flow as well. You know, there's an echo of Ganguly. You called it earlier. I think that's a good shout. He reminds me a little bit of Syed Anwar, actually, who's a bit before your time, but was a top level opening bat. And the back, as Anwar's backlift would come out towards gully point and then come back on the line, and just getting a similar sense as well with Jaiswal, and that gives him the flow into the shots because he's opening up the hands, enabling them to come through. And this is a very modern way that opening bats bat these days. You don't get that traditionally, certainly not among, say, English openers and so on. But it's been a beautiful knock, this, and he gave 2 barely even quarter chances, flashing past Root, both ran away for 4 at first slip off the spinner. But aside from that, it's been flawless. And the 5 6s that he hit as well, each of them absolutely exactly where he wanted them. The shot over extra cover, where he just moves slightly into out and slaps it again with the wrist snap, perhaps that was the shot of the day. But he also took Rayan Ahmed downtown in the last 20 minutes as well. He's nowhere near it, nowhere near the pitch of it. It just stays in the shot.
It was a huge six as well, like
And
second tier.
It was a monster.
Yeah.
And brought up his 100. He was on 94. The commentary team, happily talking through the delivery. And by the time they finished their sentence, he stuck it 30 yards back at straight mid-wicket. So it's been a masterful innings. The age is not relevant when you see a player as natural as that, I don't think. The one tiny caveat, I suppose, is that the path to greatness never runs smoothly for anyone, and especially if you are a young wunderkind in Indian cricket. And you only have to look at the tribulations of the lad batting 3, Shubman Gill at the moment, and Prithvi Shaw is the cautionary tale of a player who had it all, and then it was whipped away from him before he, in the blink of an eye. And I'm not predicting any of that for Jaiswal necessarily, but because of the sheer depth and breadth of talent, you have to keep delivering all the time, or else there's someone else around the corner. But he looks like he's going to be around for a long, long time, and there is a sort of quiet authority about him. He's not showy. He's not an Instagram baby. He's not got 100 written on his back on his back. But there is a sort of undemonstrative confidence there. The flair is very self-contained. It comes out at the right kinds of time. He played one sort of wahoo shot towards the end, but that was literally the only false shot that I can think of. It was an extraordinary knock.
Yeah, I think you're right to say how he sort of marries two schools of batting really well, the old and the new. He's got all the shots that a modern player has, but he's still got the mindset, I think, of an old school player in that he is waiting for the balls to be in certain areas because he knows exactly what the shots are that he's going to score from. It's just he's got more shots than most opening batters historically have had. And I think your comparison...
He went up and down the gears as well, which is a mark of a really, really good player. I think he recognised when it was time just to sit in. And then that last 45 minutes, last hour or so, when England were flagging a little bit, and he was recognising, I think, that this was perhaps his moment. It's just been the knock of a player who could be as old as the hills, but he's 22. But as I say, the age is almost irrelevant when you're that good.
Yeah, and he almost nullified England's biggest threat from the last Test match in Tom Hartley. He hit Hartley for 3 fours in a row, and Hartley had bowled broadly fine up until that point, but we saw very little of him throughout the remainder of the day. I think the comparison with Gill and Shaw is quite interesting. So Ben and I were talking about this in the office. So Ben was at the Under-19 World Cup where Gill and Shaw became the next big things. And I was at the one where Jaiswal was the leading run scorer a couple of years later. And I think Gill and Shaw were probably more hyped. And part of that was probably a sense of showiness. They were also very clippable. I think they naturally evoked Indian Titans more than Jaiswal did. I mean, Shaw in particular, you could see Sehwag in Shaw, for example. People were making the Sachin Mumbai comparisons, etc. But Jaiswal in that tournament that I was at was by so far the best batter because he did the dull things brilliantly. It wasn't as if that, he's not a nuggety player by any stretch, but he's a very good, even at that age, innings constructor. He scored a double 100 in a 50-over game, professional 50-over game when he was 17. He scored 11 first-class hundreds now, and he's only just turned 22. He is we had a question in from the Run Out blog who said, how does he compare to the young guys in Indian cricket? I think he is the top in terms of someone who's done it across all 3 formats now. He's not played 50-over cricket for India, but he's done very well in domestic cricket. And the comparison with Gill's interesting. Gill's been around for quite a long time now. Gill's played 22 Test matches, averages under 30. And I think one thing with Jaiswal is, I think he knows exactly how good he is. And I think that helps him. I don't think days like this surprise him. I think he thinks he should be capable of scoring massive, massive Test hundreds now. Whereas you feel like other players who have to deal with so much, who are perhaps not quite as laser focused as Jaiswal is, almost battling more than he is to sort of just stay there. Whereas Jaiswal just so concentrated on just batting. He just loves batting, hits millions and millions of balls.
There might be the developing of a sort of a brand with Jaiswal in the months and years to come, but there's not any sense of that at the moment. There's a purity to his story, and there's something remarkable as well about his origin story. And if anyone doesn't know it by now, you need to read up on it. A apologies, 99p, go and pick up the digital version of WCM, Wisden Cricket Monthly, because Adia Sharma of this parish has written a masterpiece on the Dream Factory, India's young kids coming through, the hopes, dreams, trials, tribulations, etc. And Jaiswal is obviously the most evocative of all of those stories. Go and find out about it if you don't know it already. But what you have now is a pure cricketer. You don't have yet the whole industry around him, and even the way that he carries himself on the pitch, you can sense that he does look good, but I don't think he gives a toss about whether he looks good. Whereas with someone like Shubman, who is imprisoned by his own beauty as a cricketer and as a boy, and we've all seen the topless snaps dimly lit on Instagram and all the rest of it. Well, you don't really get that sense with Jaiswal. There's an elemental purity to his game. He is compelling to watch, but he doesn't care. And that is ominous for people for the next few years. Anyone trying to get him out, you feel like there are certain players who are going to adorn cricket matches and series, and there's other players that are just going to dominate them.
He also reminds me, I don't know if you like this or not, but he reminds me a bit of Harry Kane in the rest just doesn't really matter. It's like, I just want to score goals. I just want to score runs. I think the other stuff that comes with the fame of Indian cricket, I don't think it really bothers Jaiswal. He just wants to score more and more runs. And I mean, I
think he might win a few more trophies than Harry.
Probably will.
And I say that as a dyed-in-the-wool Tottenham fan. Anyway, let's move on.
Leverkusen going well in the Bundesliga. So
he'll be back next year.
What is your sense of how this match is poised? Because I think that's a decent day for England.
Objectively, it's a decent day. You lose the toss, you keep them under wraps, and you pick up 6 oddly cheap sort of wickets. Echoes of the first test. India left a few out there. They shouldn't have done. They were a bit limp, really, in that first test match in the first innings when they could have batted England out of the game. England got 2-4-6 to win the game in the 4th innings. I think England will be happy. I think India will be kicking themselves, but also, if you look at it coldly, they'll have to bat poorly tomorrow morning not to get up to 400. And while that is by no means a dominant score on perhaps one of the top 2 or 3 flattest tracks in India, and the records play that out, nonetheless, India have got runs on the board. And the thing is, if Jaiswal had put a foot wrong, then they could have been in a pickle here. I don't think it's as bad a day for India as people will be spinning it, but it could have been so much better for them, and they will be a bit cranky with themselves. 2 very soft wickets in the last half hour or last 45, both to flat batted cut shots where clearly the ball was bouncing. There's been quite a lot of bounce throughout the day, which is good for the game. I think it's going to be a cracking test match. But again, Axar gave it away, then Bharat gave it away. Both of them batting quite nicely, relatively untroubled. Didn't really need to play those shots. And Axar in particular, who's batting in the Jadeja position at 6, big responsibility on him. Good player, big responsibility. He'd got away with a couple. He'd flashed hard. He'd missed a couple that had bounced and just missed the outside edge and kicked himself, and one skewed past route, ran away for 4. You've got to be mindful of that, especially against Bashir, who got him out, whose famed release point means that you do get that overspin and that kick off the pitch on day one when the pitch is hard and flat and true. So they should only be 4 down, really. But England being England, even if it was 330 for 4, they'll be saying, bowl them out for 450, we'll get 500, it'll be a 1 innings game, and who blinks first? That's how England will have been thinking about this right from the start, right? Unless everything goes immaculately for you, you're not bowling India out on day 1 unless something freakish happens, especially at Vizag. But they've made a model for themselves, England, that they don't mind if you are 300 for 4 because the game is moving along a pace anyway, so there's always going to be time in the game, and when they hit you hard is in the 3rd innings or the 4th innings. And if they can stay with you for those first 2 innings, then anything can happen on days 4 and 5. And so much of it comes down to nerve. And okay, 1 or 2 have not gone England's way, but the majority have over the last year and a half under Stokes. So they'll be thinking, England, knock them off for 400, 450. 450's okay. 450's
yeah,
okay.
100%. I mean, you were going to bring up the last test at Vizag when South Africa played there in 2019. South Africa scored 400 in that game and lost by 200 runs. I feel the game is in a very similar situation as to where it was the end of day 2 in Hyderabad, where I think England have actually done pretty well, but India is still in control. You could look at a pretty flat deck and just assume England are going to score 450. That's not a given at all against this India bowling attack. And as flat as it was, I do think we saw signs of very early signs of inconsistent bounce. A couple were low. They were slow when they kept low, but inconsistent bounce nevertheless. And
I would
Bashir
say,
got some extra bounce, so you'd expect Ashwin to get extra bounce.
Yeah, bang on. And Rain Ahmed as well. His first wicket.
Patidar,
yeah. When it ran on off the face of the bat. And then because of the overspin that he put on the ball and the bit of bounce that he got, it hit the splice and it rolled on and then tickled the off stump. Just going back to that South Africa game. So that was 2019. I think the last test match at Vizag. 500 for 7 declared. India plays 4-3-1. Elgar got a big 100. Rohit and Agarwal put on a monster partnership to get India up to 500 for the first wicket. South Africa then 4-3-1, 70 odd behind on first innings. Then India ploughed on in the third innings and won the game on day 5. But that suggests 730 runs scored. Sorry, 930 runs scored for 17 wickets in the first 4 days. So you're not expecting the pitch to break up too much tomorrow yet. Maybe not even on day 3. Day 3 will probably be the best. That's what they were saying on the commentary, that day 3 might be the best day to bat, and then of course it's going to start to crumble after that. But there wasn't as much lateral spin as there was on day 1 at Hyderabad today. 1 or 2 went towards the end actually, with Rayan bowled a couple of nice overs. He bowled very well actually in the final session. But I think the pitch will be nice to bat on for the next 2 days at least. And if England can hold on to the coattails of India, they don't want them to run away tomorrow. If you get up towards 450 plus, then India can control the game. And with obviously their 3 spinners, and the way England are going to play, you'll need another Pope-like knock for England to hang on to them if they get away from them.
Well, if the pitch behaves as you say it might, based on what the commentators have said, England could be in a bit of a pickle themselves, in that they get to the end of their first innings and the pitch is basically as good as it will get across the test match, and then they're the only team that really bats when it properly disintegrates. So it'd be very interesting to see how quickly the pitch disintegrates, and 2, the pace of the game.
Right.
How long can England bat? I do think potentially this is a time where England will want to bat long overs as well as getting an enormous score.
I hear that.
See. We'll see. I doubt that will factor too strongly in their minds. But
I think it'll be.
The danger is when it's a massive toss to win.
Yeah.
And the danger is that as a team who takes the field first, you're the only team who really gets the difficult batting conditions.
Yeah, for sure. England, as I say, they're the most dangerous in the 3rd and 4th innings. But in this game, which is daring to be a conventional test match, dare I say, they need to be ruthless in their innings, their first innings. They need to hope that they can bowl India out by lunch for around 400, 420. And then they have to think, we have to get 450, 500. And then we have a little bit to play with.
Probably bat at least 4 sessions themselves.
Because you know the way they're going to go in that final day, and chasing anything around 150, 200 is going to be a big, big, big ask. So they have to do their good work in the first innings. And that's almost too conventional for Stokes' tastes. But that's the way that they get a result in this game.
I actually think Stokes has quietly become slightly more conventional as this series has progressed with his fields. At times today they were just normal fields. And he said he was learning from how Rohit set the fields for Ashwin and Jadeja in the first test match. And I think you saw that, there were periods where they were very, very conventional.
Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but he's actually a great observer of the game.
He's a great observer of the game. Quick quiz question for you, because I was looking at some stats around what Jaiswal might do this year. In the 21st century, which batter has scored the most test runs before turning 23?
In the 21st century?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll come to that right at the end because I can't just reel something off immediately.
Okay, well, that's it for part one. In part two, we'll talk more about England and we'll reveal the answers to that question. Shoaib Bashir, first impressions, Phil.
I like it a lot. I can well understand why Stokes caught a clip on social media. I think the county championship socials team played a blinder here. It was them what won it because I think they posted up a clip of him taking a wicket for Somerset.
No, so it was more than that. They clipped up every ball that he bowled to Alistair Cook.
So
it was 25 balls.
Yes, right, yeah.
And we don't cover this in the pod yet. Stokes watches it on his Twitter feed, then puts it into a WhatsApp group that is just him, McCullum and Key. And even at that point, he says, something that we could work with in India. He'd seen enough. And to be honest, I know a lot of people, ourselves included, were sort of gobsmacked at Bashir's selection. 10 wickets at 67. I think that those numbers will stick in our heads for a long time. But as soon as he started bowling today, you could see exactly why they've gone for him. He's not just tall. There is genuine guile there. You made the point that he can vary his pace very comfortably. Without any evidence, and also while still being able to exercise a reasonable amount of control.
I think when the pitch starts to spit a bit, he's going to be lethal. His first wicket, dream moment, Rohit Sharma, leg slip, by the way, Stokes, nicely done. 40 for naught, tickled around the corner, taken, decent catch by Ollie Pope. When I saw it, Monty Panesar 2006, Sachin Tendulkar, I don't know if people have mentioned this or whatever, but that's what it reminded me of. That you pick out a young kid from the backwaters of provincial county cricket, you throw him in there, and Monty's first wicket was Tendulkar in his own backyard on day one. And Shoaib Bashir picks up the great Rohit Sharma with one that turned again and gripped a little bit. I think the beauty of his style, the arm is very perpendicular, so he makes the most of what he's got. And it comes on nicely with the arm. He pivots beautifully, especially when he goes round the wicket. Good right arm off-break bowlers bowl well round the wicket. And he gets a little bit of purchase, but he gets a lot of bounce. And he's relatively accurate as well. And he's quite quick through his overs as well. And I like that. I like to see that. You don't get the sense that he's second-guessing himself or he's trying to work out the best tactical approach to what's just happened. And he's not especially showy. He's got a very good stock ball, I think, at a very basic level. He's got a stock ball that you can really see how he's got chances of not just surviving but thriving in Test cricket. And, people will look at it who might not have watched much today and think, two for 100. He looked like the best bowler today.
What are we talking about? But the most important column for me is overs bowled. He bowled 28 overs today, 10 more than Hartley, who took 7 in the second innings in Hyderabad. Double the number of overs that Root bowled. Root actually had a pretty poor day with the ball, actually.
You bowled 30 overs, right?
He bowled 28. 28
sorry.
overs, yeah.
Right.
So double the overs of Root, who was expensive today. Rahan bowled 16. I think all of them coming off the tee. He was curiously under-bowled, not bowled at all, actually, until about over number 60, but then bowled very well in the final session. But yeah, I thought Bashir was very good today. Tom asks, how many consecutive hours of Anderson running in and bowling maidens could you watch? For me, the answer is infinite. He was excellent today as well. 17 overs, 1 for 30. He was clocked to 86 miles per hour in the first session, and I don't think that was a mistake because he was just below that for quite a long time as well. As impeccable with his control of length as ever. Bowled a spell off the tee where it was 6 overs for 6 with the old ball. And I'd argue, and I think we've made this point in the pod before, at this point of his career, 41, by the way, the first 41-year-old to bowl seam in a test match in India.
Is that right?
Yeah. He's more effective, relatively speaking, in these sort of conditions than he is at home because he is so skillful and maybe the stamina isn't quite there as maybe as it was 4 or 5 years ago even. But in India, on these really flat pitches, this is where he can show off his amazing array of skill, all the weapons he's got at his disposal, and this is where it sort of makes a difference more than anywhere else. Yeah,
and look in a series that's going to clatter along. 17 overs, 1 for 30 is a dream, because you got some, Tyro spinners, young Turks at the other end, who are finding their way, and one kid's going to have an off day and another kid's going to have a good day, but sometimes two are going to have an off day. But you can basically hang your hat on Anderson. You can blindfold him, put him at the top of his run-up, and he'll go at 2 and over. And it's extraordinary.
He couldn't move.
But it's almost sort of mundane now, because we've been talking about how sort of unusual this is for years. But in this particular team, to have that virtue to be able to call upon, you can just suck the life out of a game when the ball's gone flat and things aren't moving. That spell 6 for 6 in 6 runs from 6 overs. You wouldn't be able to get that with any other player out there on the tour, in the tour party, and that is it's essential. It's essential in the modern game, where batters are coming at you all the time. There's a force field around Anderson, and because of his age and because of his legendary status, whenever he comes into the attack, players are looking at him thinking, "You're twice my age." And it's little wonder that Shubman Gill pushes forward tentatively and nicks one that just holds its line, and it just moves just enough. The Glenn McGrath thing just moves enough.
That was a great bit of captaincy, by the way. Stokes moves a man back onto the square leg boundary, so properly dupes him with the field. He just beaten Gill a couple of times that over.
Well, I don't know if you know, he's a really good observer.
He's a very good observer of the game. Great observer of the game. And then this one was just slightly fuller and wider from Anderson. So I think Gill's body weight was just in anticipation of a short delivery, so he just wasn't there for the slightly fuller one. And with Anderson, he's always deliberate when the length is just a little bit fuller. It doesn't just happen to be that. Here's Anderson, his old stat for you. He has now played Test cricket, both with someone born before JFK was shot. And now with a pair of guys who were born after the start of the Iraq War.
This is the Derek Randall thing, isn't it? Right.
Well, that's Stuart, actually.
Right.
Stuart was born, I think, 5-6 months before JFK was shot.
That's magnificent. Of course, because his runs tally is his date of birth,
April 1963.
63,
and Rahan Ahmed and Bashir were. I don't think Anderson played with Bashir last winter, so this is the first time he took the field with him. Both born after the breakout of the Iraq War. I was thinking during this day rather, about a team composition, because you could look at it and think, well, if you have two Andersons, and Robinson could have done a very similar job to Anderson, does that look very different? And I get that, but I think England have picked a side to really attack the second innings. So England think that if they can get to a one inning shootout, they've got the side. We know with the bat they've got a clearer method when the pitch starts behaving in a more extreme fashion. They've also picked a bowling attack to really make sure, as you say, one of those young kids is going to have an off day. One of those kids is likely to have a good day. They've picked a side for that innings, and I think they just sort of back themselves to just about get through these really flat conditions. For the second game in a row, we're at the end of a day where it's been really flat. England have been okay with the ball. They haven't been great. And they've somehow burgled 6 wickets. I said at the start of the day, well, I watched the first half an hour, if England takes 6 wickets here, that is a good day.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that they're on top by any means, but they've given themselves a fighting chance.
Shreyas Iyer has been a bit frustrating.
Yeah.
Because he's fabulous to watch. He's got a reputation as being a master against the turning ball.
Yeah.
He's obviously embryonic Test career, but still given a sense of what he could become. He's got this golden opportunity in the middle order with Virat stepping away for a couple of games, and he's been a bit ineffectual, really. And again today, slightly unlucky possibly in that you get an under edge on a cut shot, but still he didn't quite look comfortable. So it'll be a big second innings for him, because there'll be selection questions. We assume Virat is back for that third Test match, so there'll be a lot of questions around the composition of the team, and it's a big second innings for him coming up. Very good catch by Folkes, by the way,
Brilliant
for that
catch.
Wicket. Really good catch. Stayed low on it. Didn't react to the shot. And Hartley, who had a slightly in and out day, really was taken to the cleaners a bit by Jaiswal, as was everyone. But very good catch, and that was quite a key moment in the game, really, because I think they were 170 for 2, and at that point, you're thinking, India have got to go on and really punish England at that point, as it was 330 for 6. England won the second half of that game.
Definitely. Richard asked, did you know that you could bowl more than 90 overs in a day? I thought
Didn't it feel weird?
I thought it was a maximum of 90.
It felt so strange.
Yeah, it was really strange, especially because England was so slow in Hyderabad.
Yeah.
Because even with 4 spinners, they were behind the rate. I think you're right to pick out Bashir as someone who fires through his overs.
But also, they picked up a wicket in the 92nd over of the day.
Yes, good point.
I was saying to Gardner, who's obviously exuberantly optimistic, still desperately in love with everything, he was saying, they just want to get as many overs in because they love the game and they love their test cricket. I said, no, they'll just drag the arse out of it and get to 90 overs and walk off, bang on 11 o'clock or whatever the time is out there. He's right, I'm wrong, not for the first time, and they picked up a wicket in the 92nd.
You got a chance to be right here. So that quiz question: most runs before turning 23 in the 21st century.
I don't know. Cook?
He's second. He's
go on then.
A mere 79 runs off top spot. It's Ramnaresh Sarwan.
Blimey!
He scored 2,000 runs at 38 before turning 23. And I think that doesn't even... When did he make his debut? He did make his debut in the 21st century, to be fair. But yeah, curious career, right? Remember, I can't believe we're on Sarwan on an India-England daily. But, his West Indies career ended when he was 31 with a test match average of 40.
Yeah, I interviewed him once. He was in bed in a hotel, really ill. He'd got sick and he was sleeping through the afternoon. But the press man nonetheless woke him up, and I sat at the end of his bed and he was under the covers just with the top of his head poking out and his 2 diamond earrings, coughing and spluttering into his own duvet. And we had a nice interview chat, 20 minutes, while he was basically carked out in his own bed. It was one of the more surreal afternoons I spent in this job.
Well, I'm looking forward to which random
it was quite a
figure from
room
the early 2000s that we get onto tomorrow. Anyway, that is everything for today. Cheers, Phil. The test match is delicately poised. Join us at the same time
Cliche
tomorrow.
alert. Delicately poised.
Join us at the same time tomorrow.